Hello, and welcome to January 11th, 2023. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is something that I do each and every morning just after waking up. It's currently 4:36 a.m. I do this in order to remember and think about my life objectives and principles, and to see how I did applying these to the challenges and opportunities that I encountered yesterday, and to plan for the coming day. In between those two particular activities, I will recount and think about the 7 objectives and 34 principles that I use to guide my life. All of these are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which also tells the story of how I discovered them, or at least how I discovered the need to assemble these. The necessity that drove me to the hard work of philosophy, so to speak. Whoops. All right. Get that line there. There we go. So first, last night and yesterday. It was a good night's sleep. I went to bed right on time. I was in bed by like 8:30 p.m. Slept pretty solid. Probably up the last half hour. My usual pre-alarm waking. My alarm goes off at 4 a.m. I was probably up at 3:30, but I was in control of my thoughts. I was picturing, instead of worrying about work, I was imagining myself running through the shallow waters at Huntington Beach. I'm jogging now, in addition to going to the beach after work and plunging into the sea. After that, I tend to run in my swimsuit, barefoot through the shallows up to, lately I've been running about a mile along the shore. Boy, that is something else. Feels like chariots of fire. You know, you can almost hear the music in my head as I run. But more than that, it's just the delicious feeling of running on the sand, splashing barefoot, appreciative at this later stage of life. You know, I used to do this as a young man up in Humboldt County along Clam Beach and Moonstone Beach, without appreciation, at least without deep appreciation. There was an immediate gratitude there, but not the deeper gratitude of a man that knows that his good health is coming to an end, you know, within a decade or two, and is relishing the moments of ability and capability. As for challenges and opportunities yesterday, mostly just keeping my head above water with work, staying cool and collected in my meetings, on target with my tasks, and not being overly stressed out by my responsibilities. It was a half day of work yesterday, so I took the second half of the day to go see my doctor. Well, actually, I wasn't seeing the doctor. I was seeing an ultrasound specialist to get an examination of a tumor that's right here. The doctors think it's a benign tumor, but they're doing the ultrasound to have a closer look. In the end, I'm probably going to have surgery to have it removed, as it is growing, and the doctors say that it could be a problem later, and I'd like to get this out of the way before I leave America, and I can talk at ease with my physician, rather than have to tackle this in Japan, where I have to use somebody else to as an intermediary. So just try to get everything straightened up as much as I can. I think that's pretty much it. Let's do the good life. My 7 objectives. Again, these are in my book, and you can pick up my book on Amazon.com. You can also get it from bookstores if you ask. It's typically available on my website, but I'm going to remove it from the website because I'm backed up with orders, and I haven't been able to get them out, so I don't want any more to come in. So it won't be on the website for a little while until I can get all caught up and get back from my upcoming trip to Japan with my wife to look for a home, or at least a community for us to retire into. All right, my 7 objectives are as follows. Number 1 is to be always ready to die, to have everything in order, my life affairs, my relationships, and my life's work. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, to squeeze virtuous days out of the opportunities that I have, and to not let them just waste away. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, namely, to tinker with my good life creed, as I'm doing right now. This video, this exact exercise, is fulfilling objective number 3. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become a man who doesn't fly off the handle, but who can instead manage my inner upset and turmoil and confusion in such a way that I can keep a cool and collected outside while wrestling the beast within. My experience has been that the beast can be tamed and then managed in other ways, thought through, rather than, I can think through my issues rather than expressing them outright through rage and frustration, which really doesn't come anymore. It was more of a thing of my youth when I would get really mad at the world. But still I get frustrated sometimes and I get upset. You know, I've had bad days. So, but it's rare that anybody has to see that anymore. An outward expression. I stay pretty cool and calm and collected most of the time. And that takes willful effort. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, so that I'm doing things within the scope of my capabilities and reach. And then number 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, just like I'm doing right now. This doesn't come natural. I have to work at it. But the more I work at it, the more it becomes part of my character. We really can train and will ourselves to be better, like an athlete tuning their body to fitness. So too can we tune our mind and our philosophy to mental soundness and greater self-control and composure, and peace and happiness too. All right, those were my 7 objectives. My 34 principles then are, number 1, the principle of war, to always be fighting against everything that I think is true and that I already think is true, and any proposition that comes my way that I think might be worth onboarding. Number 2 is the principle of reason, which has 3 sub-principles: honesty, objectivity, and doubt. Reason is the tool that I use to determine what is true. And I need to be honest with myself and others when I endeavor in the path of reason. I need to be objective in my view, looking closely from many sides and clearly. And then I need to be a fierce skeptic, doubting. And then fourth, I forgot the 4th one, is that I need to be willing to accept the humiliation of discovering that I'm wrong, and grateful for that humiliation. Although it really isn't humiliation when you prepare yourself for it, is it? Humiliation becomes gratitude. Just a second. All right, next is the homunculus. I don't believe that any of us have a soul. I think the concept of a soul is a made-up idea. But clearly, we have a consciousness, and I label that consciousness my homunculus, or my man within the man. That's all. The anchor hold is the next principle. The anchor hold suggests that my consciousness is trapped within my body and head, because it's mostly a part of my nervous system, I think, supported by the rest of my biological structures, and that the homunculus is subject to my death and to suffer the rigors of my health, my ill health, and will wink out and be gone forever after I'm dead. That's all. Next is the home of good and evil. I don't believe in God, and as a result, I don't believe that good and evil or right and wrong are absolute in any way, or that they pervade the universe at all, but instead they are simply mere opinions that we hold in our head, we develop and maintain. And that responsibility then lies with us. We are responsible for our concepts of right and wrong. We can't accept them as absolutes, and we have to hold them tentatively and work hard to maintain them. Next comes the principle of purpose. There are 3 purpose in my life. The first of these is to be a good husband and father. I call this the sub-principle of biology. Fulfilling my biological mandate to mate, reproduce, and get my genes into the next generation. If anything is a real mandate in life, that's probably it. It seems to be the one thing that we're alive to do, is to reproduce and create babies and get out of the way. So I fulfill that one. That's my one purpose. That's my first purpose. My second purpose is to be a virtuous human being, trying to make the world a better place, a happier place, a healthier place, a better place for thinking creatures in particular. Although I'd like to make it better for everybody if I could, even the plants, if I could. And then my third purpose is whatever personal endeavor I choose to undertake. And for me, that is the sharing of my book going along, which I'm doing right now. My next principle is the atomic principle. Just a simple reminder that everything is made of bits and pieces, molecules and atoms, typically falling to pieces, including us. My next principle is called nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's good to recognize what that is. For example, it's the nature of a Wednesday morning to break with promise of a hump day, or all that entails, and it does feel like that for me right now. My next principle is called the pirate ride, a funny name. The pirate ride simply speaks to my opinion that free will is an illusion. I don't believe we have it at all. I don't think that the universe is preordained, and I don't think that there's any intelligent agency that's guiding our lives. But I do think that the universe has everything to say about our choices, and that what seems to be our own decision-making is really the consequence of the many nudges and pushes and prods that are occurring all about us by the universe at large. I hold this position on faith. I can't prove it, but nevertheless, I believe. The next principle is called maturity, and it has 3 sub-principles: wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. Maturity is that state that we arrive at when we have the wisdom of our past experiences, our successes and our failures, and then the fortitude to do better in the future, and then we enjoy the resulting integrity of a state of life where our results are in alignment with our experience and our values. That's the goal of a mature life. Next is the social principle. We human beings need each other. We're social creatures, and it's good that we seek out our connections. The sub-principles here are diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. Diplomacy is what we do when we work together towards agreement about what constitutes the just state. And then conspiracy is when we link arms to make that happen. The next principle is called family. It's simply a recommendation to create a family. Typically I'd recommend that we do this after we've had a great life adventure, which I'll talk about in just a second. But family becomes the nucleus of our existence. And it doesn't have to be the typical family that we think of. It can be any type of family. Family simply consists of the decided connections that we make with others. The next principle is called public speaking. It's a recommendation to learn to listen well and to speak well. And when communicating, to develop for ourselves a rich and deep vocabulary that we can call on, not necessarily always to use in communicating ourselves, but to use moreover for the understanding of the good reading that we're going to do. It's good to read good literature, and often good literature and good words, especially if we read the old stuff. And we'll be prepared to understand it, but we'll also be prepared to use the best word for the right moment. Not showy or flat or flowery, but just appropriate. We also need to develop prudence, which is our ability to infuse our communication, both spoken and written, with our values, filtering it through our values, and also felicity, to tinge and taint. Tinge may not be the right word. Taint may not be the right word either. Flavor, that's a better word. Our communication with our emotions, just a dash. It helps season the speech. That's even better. Just a second again. On the topic of communication, the two things we want to avoid, of course, are to trade in gossip and to spread rumors. Next comes temperance, which is our ability to control our consumption of all things. Life will not go well. It won't. The horror show, it's coming for us. Horror, terror, awful things are going to happen. Even if they're only for just a moment. That which must be borne, carried, is the fact of the horror show and the fact that life will not go well. And then the Feast of Woeful is our ability to control our upset, publicly displayed, and to control our consumption of the upset of others. And then distraction. We spend our lives distracting ourselves with our work and our hobbies, our politics, our religion, everything and everything, sports, etc. It's all a big distraction, so that we don't have to see the next principle, which is the great indifference, the deep emptiness of the universe around us, the fact that we're alone. The best seat in the house is next, to try to be all right with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. And then comes the restless man. It's a feeling that we have, typically in youth, that we want to have some experience, some adventure in life. The path of wildness is the next principle, and it embodies what we do when we step out onto that path, to head towards that adventure, to fulfill that yearning. The great life adventure is the next principle, and that is the yield of that effort, the result of the experience of heading out into the world and coming back with the prize of a great life adventure, something that will be the centerpiece of our lives and the part and parcel of our identity. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. It's a tricky, risky balance to find a way to have the great life adventure and also have the settled family, home, career, etc., and security that so many of us want to have in life, in addition to an experience of our own. It's tough to balance both. The risk is that we might go too far one way or the other. Sin and damnation is next. There are 8 sins in my worldview. These relate to being untrue, believing things for bad reasons, and being someone who spreads rumors or engages in gossip. Itemized, these are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, rumor, and gossip. Engage in any of those things and we're basically sinning against good living. And we have to really live with the consequence of the damnation in the here and now. Complete oblivion is next. Since I don't believe in God, I don't believe I have a soul, I don't think there's any afterlife. I think that when I'm dead, that's the end of me. As a result, there'll be no happy reunion with my loved ones, no chance to reconcile any differences after death, and no justice meted out by any deity. All of these things have to be pursued and achieved in the course of our life, which is a lot of hard work if we're going to enjoy them at all. Because after we're dead, our chance is gone, but then we won't know better anyway, so there's that too. Next comes a new principle this week called script writing. Script writing is a process that I've begun using to, in my mind, lay out a plan for the future. It can be the long term, mid-term, or short term. I mean, even up to just minutes ahead. And I can have a sub-process running in my head that's scripting out the immediate minutes ahead of me. I'm doing it right now. Planning out how I'm going to finish this video. Keeping cool and calm and collected and enunciating well and getting each of the points out in a clear way. What happens is that my mind seems to follow that path. Left to its own devices, my mind tends to worry and fret. But if I take a little active control and write a script for myself, I can seemingly do better. And it seems to work very well. The next principle is called the bullseye aim, which is a reminder that even though I shoot for a particular center of the target, usually I'm going to miss by some degree. It's like playing darts. And I put that new principle, script writing, just ahead of the bullseye aim, because I want to be reminded that even though I'm writing a script for a bullseye, I should expect to only rarely hit it square. Uphill climb is next. A reminder to finish each day stronger, higher, and with a more comprehensive view of life than I did yesterday. Learning, basically. Arena and utility is next. Life is an arena for the development of our own objectives and principles that we can keep sharp and ready and tuned at our side to use as needed. Nothing is enough is the next principle. A simple reminder towards simplicity and not expecting things to give me peace or happiness, but expecting the hard work of basically, again, a philosophy to generate the yield and fortitude in the application and pursuit and application, pursuit, development, and application of my own creed. And then finally, the principle of fun, a reminder to enjoy the present day. Enjoy the moment right now. Like, let's have a sip of coffee, Kurt, and enjoy that sip. That's quite good. So often I just kind of let coffee just go down the gullet. The principle of fun reminds me to enjoy life, to enjoy it now, to enjoy the remembrance of yesterday and the anticipation of tomorrow and the days beyond. Yesterday I had a fun time at the beach. I had a nice evening with my wife. Tomorrow, this evening, I'll have a nice time at the beach again and a nice evening with my wife if I live that long. And then tomorrow and days beyond, I'll be preparing for Japan, enjoying the planning, and then enjoying the upcoming trip. It's going to be fun. There you go. That's my good life creed. Now, let's plan for today. I'll finish this video. I'll upload this. I'll then read my Bible. I'll feed the dogs, walk the dogs. Or probably they don't want to go out because it's still wet outside, but at least I'll open the door and let them go out to the yard. And then I'll read a little bit. And then it'll be time to start my day's work, fire up the computer, log in, get started, do a good solid day of work. And then in the evening, I'll go to the beach. I'll swim in the ocean, run on the sand, come home, have a nice evening with my wife, take a shower. We'll have dinner, enjoy a show. I'll have one beer, and we'll plan for our coming trip. And I'll do all of this while maintaining a calm and composed attitude, and I think the word is mien, the visible structure, reflective of an inner calm that I cultivate and develop through the hard work of thinking and planning my life and dealing with difficulty, less with emotion and more with thought, although recognizing that emotion is important too. That's going to be my day today. And if I die today, if I have a heart attack or an aneurysm, and I just wink out, then I will, as the light closes around me and the darkness folds, I'll remember that I had a good life and that I left it on good terms, with settled circumstance, my mission complete with my daughter, and my book done. Although I do need to add that new principle, so maybe I better do that during my lunch break. Otherwise it's not complete. All right, I think I've covered everything on my Good Life Creed. Time to sign off. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. And with that, my life is done.